Right. We said as close to 8 o'clock as possible. So we're just going to let a few bits and pieces not explode. Press that button. There we go. Come on. Hey, there we go. That horrible moment of just... I don't know what it is, and maybe it's just the setup I have. But you press the button where I go from that holding screen to this, and it's just that moment where my camera is black and the little green light doesn't come on. And you're just like, yeah, panic attack. There is so much to talk about, and what I've realised is that I do not have up on my phone at the moment is the Elite League scores, because we need to keep tabs on what's going on, because of course there's a game we kind of need to talk about this evening. So we'll make sure that things are to hand. If you're watching on catch up, the word for the comments is Mitch. Let's do that one. Let's lean into the silliness before we get kind of too far into it. I also need to make sure that the volume on my phone is not up, otherwise that will ruin everything. Really frustrating me. It's not... YouTube is not actually not giving me notifications, despite the fact I've asked them, when people comment on the videos after the fact, so I have to kind of check back from time to time. But yeah, there's your warm-up question. Which player signed for a club you never thought they would do? Got a couple of answers in there already. I can see Lee's mentioned Dylan Lawrence going to the Phantoms. Dave P mentioning Ralph going to Basingstoke. You see, I don't think this was as unusual as people think it was, Dave. Mostly because my understanding is that he's South London based now. So there we go on that front. Right, okay, what we will do is we need to get rocking and rolling early, and hopefully people will come in. Guys, gals, and the gender fluid and all beyond the binary, it is Wednesday night. It is 8 PM, and welcome to the BOTW What's Current stream. My name is Anthony Russell, here once again to take you through the weird, wonderful, and wacky world that is British ice hockey. We cover the entire lot, from the Elite League to the National Division to Division 1 and 2 in the NIHL. We do the SNL, we do the WNIHL. If there's a senior game played in Britain, we will talk about it, as well as all of the big news and hearing your views as well. Good evening, welcome everybody. Great to see you folk popping into the chat. We'll of course keep tabs on that at the moment, but because there is quite a lot to talk about. Let's talk about we'll talk about two ways, because maybe things are not quite as straightforward as we all first thought they were. Let's talk about the fact that Mitch Hurd has left the Glasgow Clan for the Sheffield Steelers and is now playing for the Sheffield Steelers right now against the Glasgow Clan. We will talk about the fact that Swindon are adding names to Legends Row, and of course, we need to talk about that into the bargain. Let's quickly bash our way through the housekeeping before we get too far into the machinations of everything. Battlesonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one source for all things related to British hockey. We had a bit of a rare weekend off, all things considered. No commentary for me last weekend because Guildford weren't at home. They were gracing the folk in Kirkcaldy. And the one game I tried to go to was the Solent Juniors versus Bristol 2, which was postponed, and there's more news out of Gosport tonight on that fact. But either way, you've got over 14 and a half years worth of content to check out over on bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, all of the match write-ups, and of course our hockey stories series, long form in-depth pieces of equipment. I sent an email out actually to try and sort out a new one today, but there was a good run actually we did in the lead up to this season, whether it was Richard Lim from the Royal Military College of Canada and what it means to coach a youth sports team that's ultimately not trying to develop players to go and be professionals, whether it's Willie Dunn, the GM of the Whitley Warriors, about their new venture into Scotland, whether it's Jamie Thompson from Scottish Ice Hockey about the developments of the game in Scotland for all levels and everything that they're trying to do there, whether it's history pieces like the story of the gentleman flyer, Constantine Cantacuzino, the pioneer of Romanian ice hockey. There is so much stuff that you can go and check out over on bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. And of course, then there's all the YouTube gubbins that we do like to give you. Head down to the description. There's the link to the link tree. And you can get all of our socials. We are on X, we're on Facebook, we are on Blue Sky. And of course, there is the link in there to our virtual busking hat at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. Of course, we are never going behind the paywall here at BOTW, but of course it costs money to do things because capitalism. So if you like what you get and you want to help keep the lights on and the wheels turning, chuck us a coffee over at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. Always appreciated. But if you don't have the money, absolutely fine. Don't spend money on me that you don't have. Like stuff, share stuff out, tell people about what's going on, because if nothing else, there's lots of good stuff going on out there. I even gave you some ideas for some stuff to go and check out yesterday in our little update piece that I did. But of course, the great thing is that we are here Wednesdays usually. There will be a couple of Fridays this season, but we are usually here on a Wednesday night at 8 p.m. to go through absolutely everything from Belfast to Bradford, Leeds to Lee Valley. And of course, that means you can join in with the chat. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, the whole kit and caboodle. Chuck it all in there. All that we ask is if you are going to put stuff in the chat, that you do remember the golden rule here at BOTW, which is DBAD. Don't be a dick. Be respectful of other people's thoughts and feelings, and we are going to have an awesome time. Good evening, Mr. Perchand, of course, who has got a new. Of course, his new gig will be. We'll see him return to the new home. We'll talk about that momentarily. Mark, good evening. John, good evening. What's Dave for here? It's not so unusual, but disappointing. Romford let Tom Ralph slip away. I would agree on that front there, Dave. It was surprising, but I don't think in that sort of sense that he's joined like a club. It wasn't beyond the realms of feeling like it was that big of a shock. Jamie, evening all, one for the old fans. Poor lady to the that's a poor lady to the Steelers. Definitely, Jamie, digging into the historical archives there. I will need your help momentarily, Jamie, because I don't know whether I saw you tweeted about this or not, but we will touch on it momentarily. Right. Let's get down to business and the fact there is a lot to talk about. We will park some of the more controversial stuff for momentarily, because for those of you not familiar, and you will notice that there is an addition to the hockey shelf this week. This, for those of you who aren't familiar with the story, is the beer bottle. This was given to me at the 2023 Basingstoke Bison end of season awards night. Gary and Carol from the Booster Club gave me a box of these, and I worked my way through them this summer, and then I realised that if I finished off the last one, then it was the last connection to what had gone and what may potentially never ever come back. And so I made a promise, and this has been sat in the corner of my kitchen. It's moved around a couple of times, but I said I would drink this when the Bison were officially confirmed as gone forever, or when they came back. With the announcement that this coming Saturday, the 18th of October 2025, that after 923 days, the Basingstoke Bison, my club, Lee, screw you. Those of you who haven't got the chat, Lee's just put in, I'd laugh if you dropped it now. Boo hiss. But yes, 923 days, the 9th of August 2023, when the Basingstoke Bison lost 4-2 to the Leeds Knights in the second leg of the 2023 National Division playoffs, was the last time the Basingstoke Bison graced the ice in Basingstoke. And it's been a long journey since that point. The Basingstoke Buffalo kept the flame going, and we said Basingstoke never dies, and the juniors joined them in keeping our heads up. And then the rink closed properly last November as they officially shut the doors and the teams had pulled out, knowing that the refurbishment was on its way. However, the announcement comes that this Saturday, the 18th of October 2025, if I'm right, and Jamie, this is where I need you, 11 years to the day since Planet Ice reopened Milton Keynes post-refurbishment, that the Basingstoke Bison will once again take to the ice in anger. And you will be more than aware of the fact that I won't be there, because I can't be, because I've obviously taken on my role with Guildford, because I have branched out to do something different for myself. And yeah, I won't be there. I have made my commitments and I have to stick to those. So that's going to sit on that shelf for an extra week, because I'll see you the week after. But the biggest thing is that the waiting, the pushing, the prodding came to fruition. And I said it the other day. Maybe you saw the social media posts on the banners on the wall, bits and pieces, or not, I do not know. Basingstoke never dies. And it didn't die. Basingstoke lives. And I can't tell you how emotional it has made me over the last day or so, because there was talk that there was an announcement last night. It's been less than 24 hours since Planet Ice put that out there, but to know that it's happening, to know that it's real, to know that something that means so much to us is about to return. And yes, my hockey journey took me many, many miles in different directions to different places, and has taken me to something I never thought I'd have the opportunity to do, and has taken me away from what I knew. But I'm aiming for something else for me, and that's absolutely fine, because irrespective, my team is back now. And a weekend after this one, so the 18th, this just has to stay, but the following weekend, Saturday the 25th of October, the Basingstoke Bison and the Peterborough Phantoms, it would have to be them for the long-term viewers of the show. But you can all join me outside before the doors open, and we are going to empty this. Don't think I'll drink it all myself. And given it is... Okay, so the expiry date on this was the end of April 2024, so it survived longer than I thought it was going to do. But we're going to... Saturday the 25th, and we'll mention it again next week, but you can come and join me. We will crack this open, and if you want, I'll bring a few cups. We can share it out. And we can put it all to bed. Big news, of course, for the Bison. We'll talk about that first game because, of course, it is against I'm a bit sad to miss that game purely because of who it's against, but, of course, the fixtures from the National Division coming up soon. Elsewhere, of course, we do need... Jamie, yes, thank you. 11 years to the day, 18th of October 2014, when MK returned home versus the Sheffield Steel Dogs. The refurb was christened by Grant McPherson and the late Andre Payet. Of course. Oh, no, hang on, no. Was that year? No, it was that year. It was the playoffs in 2014 where where Grant McPherson got drunk and threw a pint into Andre Payet's face. Surely you got to sit down in one. Kieran, I'm driving. Absolutely not. I'm just terrible at downing drinks in general. I've got I can't breathe very well through my nose at the best of the time, so I can't kind of do that. Who bought the bottle opener? No. And I'll tell you why. Dave, because of these magic because of the magic words here. Twist off cap. But I also have a bottle opener on my keys. Don't worry, folks. Down it in one, no, Kieran, no, not my style. And also as well, in some ways, if people want to share in it, they can do, because I think this is about more than me, because I think there's a few times where we ever wondered whether it would ever happen, and I maybe this was the point where I was a little bit too hyperbolic, and so on and so forth. And I sort of said, these days will come again. And even I, the eternal optimist, had to wonder whether those days would come again. But they are. And therefore we have to do it. Get the train like the old days. I live too far away from the train station now, Ben, is the short version on that. And like I say, there'd be something more apt, I think, in terms of sharing it with people. Yes, it's just one 330ml bottle of beer, but I think we can kind of roll with that. The other thing as well is that, like I say, it means I get to go home to Basingstoke for a night, and then the next night I get to commentate on the Guildford Flames and the Belfast Giants. So, irrespective of the fact that I've got Manchester on Saturday, and you know what, I'm looking forward to that, because Flames-Manchester games usually have a bit of spice under the surface. But what a weekend for me to get back to Basingstoke, to be able to see my club again after 2.5 years. And then the next night, I get to commentate on the Guildford Flames and the Belfast Giants. I don't believe in luck. I believe in something much higher than that. But yeah, everything's coming up Millhouse on that front. Yes, so either way, National Division bits we'll talk about in a minute, because of course we need to talk about elsewhere in the National Division. The Swindon Wildcats have today announced 2 bits and pieces. One, I'm pretty certain, is trying to distract from the other, because Aaron Nell hates being the centre of attention. But Aaron Nell has announced that at the end of the 25-26 season, he will hang up the skates. He will remain as general manager and head coach of the Swindon Wildcats, one of the title favourites in the National Division this season. But he is calling time on his playing career, the record point scorer, and if I'm right, Ben, Tom, looking towards you lot, the record goal scorer as well for the Cats. will call time on his playing career and head fully behind the bench for 26-27. Now, it goes without saying, and I'm sure he'll be on there. But Aaron Nell's jersey should be taken off of his back at the final home game the Wildcats play and nailed gunned to the wall. There is absolutely no question about the fact that Aaron Nell should have 19 retired. I appreciate he runs the team, and it does feel a little bit weird to have to do that, but I don't think it should be a very long conversation that should be had. Aaron Nell is one of the finest British players of his generation, and I realise some of my newer friends from the Elite League might have wandered in and said, but it's only the EPL and the NIHL. Not the point, because British hockey is bigger than one league, it's bigger than one team, and ultimately legends are legends wherever they go in that kind of sense. It doesn't matter if it's Robert Dowd, who, let's face it, Robert Dowd is gonna have his number retired by the Sheffield Steelers when he retires. Aaron Nell has been a consistent high performer for such a long time. He means so much to Swindon ice hockey in that kind of sense. I'm not saying we need to 99 him or anything like that, because he caused Basingstoke fans enough of a headache over the years to make that a big fat no. But ultimately, people will talk about different generations, different eras of Swindon ice hockey. Well, Aaron has been there for so long that he kind of transcends that at this point. It does make the other announcement out of Swindon today kind of interesting, although, and thanks to Tom, who I know is lurking in the chat to talk about it, the retirement of number 60 for Jonas Hög, because I can spell, in Swindon, it does, in an initial sense, has kind of made a few people sort of go, huh? But when you look back, in that era, in his era of playing for Swindon, Jonas Hög's point scoring total is bonkers, and the fact it wasn't retired sooner some people could say was a little bit harsh, but ultimately jersey number retirement should be handed out scarcely. They should not be something that is given out willy-nilly. They should be handed out only to the highest and those that really deserve the honour. Now, some people may wonder about Hög. They're well within their rights to do so. The statistical numbers on him there, when you sit down and look at it hard enough, you can understand why they've done it. For me, and I know Tom had mentioned this as well, there's definitely another number that needs to be in consideration for Swindon being retired, and when he eventually does call time, as I venture he might do before too long, is number 13 of Sam Bullas, because Bully is another one who has been around and put his heart and soul into being a Swindon Wildcat for a really, really long time. And there's that kind of thing of too many together in some ways, although if Bully retires at the end of the season, like many suspect he might do, there is something to be said for, do you do 19 and 13 together, and therefore Aaron doesn't have to cop all the flack by himself? Because Aaron Nell hates attention, which is ridiculous for a man who scores that often. But either way, great news out of Swindon. Congratulations to Aaron. Hope he enjoys the final miles of his career, and congratulations to Hergy. I talk about the game the Basingstoke Bison won the EPL title back in 2016 a lot. If you haven't ever gone and watched bits of that game, go back and find it, because it's not just about the Bison winning the league. The game is brilliant, and it might be Jonas Hög's best ever game he's ever played, because he was on a one-man mission to piss on everybody's chips. It might be one of the single best performances by an away player in Basingstoke, that game. So yeah, a lot to be said. What about 89 though for Swindon? I don't know, is that one. I will defer to the Swindon fans on that one, because I think for me, if you retire 60 for Hög, I don't know if you retire 89. But I venture, though, again, it's another conversation to be had. There is a world where you do, and there's a world where you don't. But I think can we space them out a bit? Maybe might be an idea. Perfect for Steve to get his own back. Yes. Yes, Kieran. He got his dad, and now it's dad's turn to get him on that front. So, Basingstoke, home. Swindon, decorating home. So let's have a quick look then into the Elite League and the news coming out of the Elite League, of course, because it's happening right now. Let's quickly grab the phone because, of course, I've got all my graphics up and everything like that. If we have a quick look up in Glasgow right now, and no, he hasn't scored because we're in the just into the second period here because it is 1-1 between the Glasgow Clan and the Sheffield Steelers, and it was originally said that he wasn't going to play this evening, but he is. Which is the fact that Mitch Hurd, who didn't ice for the Clan when I commentated on Guildford versus Glasgow a couple of weekends ago, and then it all seemed to go very quiet, and then he disappeared. Hurd leaving the Clan. This is after, of course, that it was announced that there was going to be a merch line that the Clan were doing with him, and he disappeared. And it was rumoured where he was going. He was going to the Giants, and because of their indifferent start to the season, then he was randomly going to the Steel Dogs and the Steelers, which was a bit of a strange one. And then ultimately the Sheffield Steel Dogs baited everybody out because it was an announcement about Cole Shudra. More on him in a bit. But all things considered, it seems to have set things ablaze, and people are very, very cross about it. But yes, all things considered, a bit of an interesting one, of course. A little bit of Hurd, of course, not the first player to leave the Clan. To leave the Clan for the Steelers in this way. It seems to have gone down a lot less well this time around. And like I say, he is playing right now. If we have a look, so like I say, we're in the second period. Hurd is on. He says skimming across. So Hurd has played 4 minutes and 25 seconds of ice time. 4:25 of ice time. The only person to get less ice time than him currently, there's two. Logan Nielsen, who's only played 57 seconds. Cole, yes, it's the fourth line for the Steelers. Is not who've played less than him at the moment. Shudra's had 1 minute and 14. Nielsen has had less than a minute. And Reece Kelly has had 2 minutes and a second. So third line fun by the looks of it for Hurd this evening. If we have a quick look at the game sheet for the Steelers. Where is he at the moment? He's actually meant to be centering the second line. Is Mitchell Hurd. He is centering a line of himself, Mitchell Barmas, and Derek Gentile. Which sounds. I get the rationale behind it on that front. He is effective as a centre, is Hurd. But yeah, it seems to have been bad blood in leaving, and because the Steelers are the Steelers, and they're not always the best at kind of managing these situations in the politest of manners. People have their backs up. So that should be should be an interesting situation going forward. I can't remember off the top of my head the next time I see either of those sides, but I've not seen Mitchell Hurd yet, so let's see how he does when he eventually makes his way down to Surrey, so I get a look at him. The other news, of course, though, that was talked about was Cole Shudra appearing last week for the Sheffield Steel Dogs. Played last Saturday against the Swindon Wildcats, and a lot of people kind of went, oh, okay, why? And asked a bunch of different questions about this. Now, the thing that came out of it, because I had a few people poke me from other places and go, Anthony, you've got the two-way rules wrong. And I wasn't sure that I had. So I did what I always do in these situations, which is I sat down and I dug out every single piece that I could find about the two-way rules. There's nothing on IHUK. The Elite League has rules regarding two-way players, and so do the NIHL. There is the National Division's rules on it, and there is the rules for Division 1 and Division 2. Here is the trick. I was right and I was wrong. I stated the rules correctly because the two-way bits and pieces exist. For example, it is 100% fact, despite what some of our friends elsewhere might think, you cannot be an import and be on a two-way contract. It is not possible and is not allowed, either from the Elite League rules or the NIHL National Division rules, nor in the Division 1 and Division 2 rules. If you're an import, you are where you are. If you transfer, you are locked from another transfer for 28 days. So you can't just bounce an import around like a rubber ball. The rules about guesting are where this becomes slightly obscure, and where I think the Steelers and the Steel Dogs are potentially either, depending on how you look at it, either taking the piss out of the system or exploiting a loophole. Because let's face it, when you look at this, there is a loophole as big as a truck to drive through. The NHL rules are relatively clear and straightforward. If you're registered with an EIA, with an organisation registered with English Ice Hockey, which would be every National Division team down, two-ways are for under 25s. If you're over that age, you cannot be a two-way player. If you are not on a two-way contract and you can't play up or down or whatever, if you are not on a two-way contract, so you are over the age of 26, you can play at another level for a maximum of 3 games. After that point, it is a permanent transfer and you can't keep bouncing around. It's why you see the odd guy disappear down to a team and help them out from time to time. Injuries, etc., and so on and so forth, right? You can guest for 3 games. The Elite League ones are slightly different because of the ages. Most people will not call up a guy won't call up a guy over the age of 25 because the two-way rules now from an Elite League perspective are pretty handy. Yes, your main contract has to be with somewhere else, although I'm not sure what that means for Brindley Caps because the Blaze run his contract, but I assume we're sidestepping that issue. But if you're under the age of 25, from a two-way perspective, you get 20 games before you count against the roster cap. Nice and straightforward. And if you're under 20, you don't count against the roster cap at all. So that leaves that in a relatively straightforward position. But what we have is the Elite League, who are not under EIH, and the National Division that is, and one entity that owns a team in both of these leagues. From what I can find, there is no rule governing an Elite League British trained player playing down into the National Division. So in my head, I've said that he can guest up to 3 times because that is the rule. If you're from a higher level playing down, that was the rule that covered EIH teams. Now my understanding is that the Steelers fully intend to exploit this as and when they feel fit because there is nothing governing it. And like I said, you can look at this in a couple of different ways, all things considered. Could it be that it's a piss take? Because for me, there is already a mechanism to allow players in higher levels to play down. It is being a two-way contracted player. Schuger is too old for that. He can't be one. Is this the Steelers merely exploiting a loophole that is there? In their mind, it doesn't say they can't, so they can, so they will. The other argument is that it doesn't say you can, so should you? For me, there is a real argument to be had about the spirit of the rule as well as the rule. Because if you're able to effectively give the Steel Dogs a ringer whenever you feel like it, who is past the point of a developmental pathway, which is what two-way contracts are meant to be, then there's a real argument, I feel, that it's exploiting the system. Now, in North America, of course, if you had Schuger, you can be whatever age and be on a two-way contract between the NHL and the AHL. Sure, over a certain age you have to clear waivers, which of course is something that's a complete anathema to here in Britain. But the idea isn't completely out of the realms of possibility. The problem is the mechanism doesn't exist for this to work in British hockey. Now, I've seen the fact that Kieran's put it in the chat, they didn't work on Saturday. No, Swindon won, and we'll talk about that in a moment because we'll crack on with the results. But here's the problem for Sheffield. If the door is open and you walk through it, the problem is that somebody will find out that you've walked through the door. And it doesn't always happen. Some people can sneak in and out of the fire escape and not get caught. We've all been to enough rinks where the odd person has managed to sneak in without paying. But Sheffield making people aware of it makes me think that the EIH will close it. And as we head towards a unified governing body, which is what they tell us that they're going to do, where will this new version of IHUK fall on such things? Because it is 100% within the Steelers' interest, given the fact that they own a team in the Elite League, a team in the National Division, and heavily invest in a team in NHL Division 1, and you can make your own jokes about the Scimitars here, but it is within their interests to make sure that that mechanism for movement of players is as smooth as humanly possible. The problem is that they're the only ones. And if one club says, yes, please, and everybody else goes, nope, then they might get away with it for this year. And like I say, for me, it still feels like a bit of an exploitation of a rule, and is against the spirit of what the two-way movement of players is therefore under the context of British hockey. But if they've been told they're doing nothing illegal, then we can't do anything about it. We don't have to like it, but we might have to lump it on that one. The trick, of course, will come is if somebody challenges it, because Colshuter has played once for the Sheffield Steel Dogs. No harm, no foul. He might play a second time and a third time, but when the fourth time rolls around, I'll be very interested to see, particularly if the Steel Dogs win the game, whether there isn't some sort of challenge made about his appearance on a game sheet. Because, like I said, some people will say it doesn't say anything, so it's fine. But the flip side of that argument, the other side of that coin, it doesn't say it's allowed, so it's not. But if there's anybody with the backing and the ability to try and test the rules and bend them to their breaking point, it's the Sheffield Steelers. One team that is arguably the best at putting themselves first in a lot of different things. Like I say, I'm not sure I'm 100% comfortable with it, but we will see what happens with it. Either way, as Kieran mentioned, didn't work on Saturday for them. And what we need to do is we need to, firstly, say to you lot, thoughts in the chat, stick them in there, see what you think. Should it be allowed? Should Shudra be allowed to go up and down between the two sides without impunity? Should it be limited to the three that a lot of people understand it to be? Should it even be allowed at all if you're over a certain age? Should you not be able to guest down out of the Elite League? Should you have to move permanently? We will see. Like I said, chuck your thoughts in the chat. Really interested to hear them. But we need to... Well, firstly, I need to press the button properly so everything moves. Because we need to have a look at the fixtures since we were last together. It's also going to help if I press that button. What's happened there? There we go. I don't know why it's gone all the way to the end. That's a bit of a strange one. Oh well. Either way, we need to go back to last week. Because, of course, this was a game that was happening last Wednesday when we were all chatting, which was the Steelers and the Panthers. A game that ended with 0 penalty minutes. That's right. The Sheffield Steelers and the Nottingham Panthers, the biggest rivalry in British hockey, had a game that ended with 0 penalty minutes on either side. Bit of a strange one, but either way, the Panthers picking up points in Challenge Cup Group A with that 4-2 win in this one. That then led into the one league game from Friday of this week, and of course, despite the fact that Manchester probably should be in Group B of the Challenge Cup, they're not. But they managed to go up to Glasgow and have some Premier Sports-based fun. They shut out the Glasgow Clan, Derrida shutting the door, and the Clan having beaten Sheffield the week before, then losing at home 4-0 to Manchester. A bit of a strange one. How about guesting up like Northcliffe did when he signed to Streatham? Same thing, is what I'd say there. For me, if they do it during a cup semi-final, final, playoffs, it's gaining more of an unfair advantage than a normal league game. Well, of course, the thing, Kieran, from a cup and semi-final, from a cup semi-final or final perspective, I believe they've changed. I believe the rules have changed on that one, but we'd have to see what happened on it. From a playoff perspective, you would have to play the minimum number of games to qualify for playoffs, and that's the issue. Because if somebody turns around and says, no, it should only be 3, and he plays the requisite, if he plays like the double-digit numbers, whatever it is, like 14, 15 games to do it, that's when we'll see issues there. But yes, either way, the Storm getting some points in the league and beating the Clan. That then led into last weekend. Sat games in the league on Saturday, of course. The Flames having an absolute whale of a time up in Fife. The Flyers started this game pretty well. They were a goal up after 20 minutes and then got a delay of the game penalty at the start of the second period for not coming out in good enough time. Guildford scored on the ensuing power play and then gave the Flyers an absolute kicking. Jamal Watson with a second period hat-trick in this one. That's first line forward Jamal Watson to you and me as the Flames skate out of Kirkcaldy with a 7-2 victory. Manchester then doubling up, getting points, getting maximum league points. They are indeed flying at the moment. It's been a really good Really good run for them recently. We'll see how they do this coming weekend. But they beat the Stars by 4-3 in overtime. And then the Devils shutting out the Blaze at the Vindico Arena. Just the one game in the Challenge Cup from Saturday. And the Clan turned things around again. They are such a bizarre team as well. I know the guys from the 3 on 3 podcast called them Clansy. They lose at home 4-0 to Manchester and then beat the Belfast Giants in overtime. Because who needs things to make sense? On Sunday then, a bit of a nightmare for the Nottingham Panthers. 2-0 up and they literally chuck it away against the Cardiff Devils, who come roaring back in the third and then get the overtime winner to steal the extra point and head back down to South Wales in the league. And then in the Challenge Cup, well, Belfast have been promising to give someone a kicking for some time, and they've had a bit of a torrid CHL campaign, albeit they did win last night against Grenache. But a 6-0 win for Adam Keefe's men, giving the Flyers a bit of a seeing off. And then Coventry, a 0-point weekend for them in all competitions. A 5-1 win in the Sky Dome for the Sheffield Steelers and a hat-trick for Cliff Pugh, who's been sort of bubbling under the surface and finally seems to have found his scoring boots in this fixture. A pretty comprehensive win for Aaron Fox's side. Which gives us then, as we have a quick look, there's no point looking at the league table. Belfast haven't played a game and they're still in a playoff spot. Group A of the Challenge Cup, though, does look like this. The Blaze have played one game more than the Steelers, but sit above them at the moment. Not the greatest of weekends for them, though. Of course, those two losses, losing kills momentum. They need to get a result against Nottingham. Sheffield then in second. Cardiff currently in the play-in spot at the moment. The Panthers need a result against Coventry and need some help from elsewhere. Manchester and Guildford are playing for pride. Group B, well, Belfast are back on top, but Dundee are 2 points behind with 2 games in hand. The Giants, for the first time in quite some time, could fall out of the automatic qualification spot from Group B as a result. Fife and Glasgow, mathematically not eliminated, but do need a miracle. So, a couple of games then tonight happening in the league. He says quickly reaching for his phone because these two are happening right now. Glasgow and Sheffield are still tied at 1 from the first period of the game there. Sam Tremblay with an early goal for the Steelers, cancelled out by Mikali Teppo on the other end. And then the game between Fife and Nottingham at Kirkcaldy is currently 2-0 to the Panthers. Goals from Mitch Fossier and Ollie Bettridge in those two games half term on a Wednesday night for our friends north of the border. One game on Friday across the entirety of the lot, and it is in the Challenge Cup because it's a home and home. It's Friday night in the Storm Shelter for the Storm and the Flames. And then on Saturday, more fixtures in the league. Despite the fact, of course, it seems that Belfast seem to do nothing but play Fife at the moment. They'll meet at the SSE. Dundee take on Nottingham at the DIA. Cardiff take on Glasgow. Coventry will try again with the Sheffield Steelers. And one game in the Challenge Cup on Saturday. And that's it. And that's where you'll find me this Saturday evening. Flames TV, 6 p.m. face-off at the Guildford Spectrum between the Flames and the Manchester Storm. Of course, we will see what happens on Friday night. It means I'm printing off a load of blank pages and filling them in with pencil before lunch on Saturday. On to Sunday. A couple of games in the league as, look again, Fife and Belfast. I don't think anybody from Belfast is going to want to go near Kirkcaldy for a couple of months after this. Nottingham take on Dundee. Coventry take on Glasgow. And just the one game in the Challenge Cup on Sunday, Sheffield and Cardiff will meet with some big implications towards the top of Group A. And so into the National Division. A pretty busy weekend last weekend. All the bits and pieces rocking and rolling. And something of a surprise result. Telford had been flying to start this season. That import group has been firing on all cylinders, added to with Brindley Caps hitting the ground absolutely running. But they run into a wall called the Romford Raiders. The Cole CC show doing the business as the Raiders send Telford back to Shropshire with 0 points. A 5-3 win for Jason Buckman's side, and one that will be very, very well received. The Cats Well, the Cats beat Dogs, apparently. Not only in hockey, not in real life. Dogs are better than cats. And Cole Shudra's appearance for the Sheffield Steel Dogs yields nothing, as Aaron Nell's side keep pace at the top of the division with a 5-2 victory. And then another one, and this one is even longer. 937 days between victories, because the Bison lost 6 straight to end the campaign with their last campaign. But the Basingstoke Bison have points on the board as they beat the Bristol Pitbulls by 5-2 over in the West Country. Of course, Bristol very generously allowing the Bison to play a pre-season home game there, and giving the hosts nothing in return. In one of the games that would have been an early marker on the calendar for the for fans of the National Division, Lightning and the Knights at the Thunderdome. And the Knights walk it 5-2, a pretty big, pretty sizable early win, especially given that poor first weekend from the Knights, who've really started to get their wheels under them. Fans of the Lightning starting to wobble a little bit, I notice, from what I've read. There is still, however, quite a long way to go. And then Peterborough, well, they compounded some of the miseries at Hull. It's been a tough start to the season for Hull. They've had a run of games that have been very, very close, but not getting themselves over the line. But Ashley Tate's start in Breton has had its rocky moments as well. That 8-4 loss to the Lightning is probably the biggest marker of that. But a 4-3 victory at home means that the Phantoms' work towards the top of the table is still going very, very well. Into Sunday then, and well, the Steel Dogs didn't have Cole Shudra and beat the Lightning in overtime, so make your own jokes there. Jonathan Phillips with the OT winner to condemn the Lightning to a 1-point weekend as the Dogs get themselves back on the horse. 24-shot shutout for Rennie Marr in the Bison's home game in Swindon. Home game, the last home game on the road by the looks of it, but a pretty stunning performance from Max Wright. That second goal, an empty netter, Wright telling away 43 of 44 and looking impressive despite the fact the Bison couldn't get themselves over the line here. But that game was 0-0 into off the top of my head, the 53rd minute, and it makes you wonder what the Bison will be like when they're able to train regularly and get game time under them. Leeds, maximal on the weekend, a 6-2 victory over Solway, a team themselves like they... Oh, have I not changed the slide? There we go. Thank you, Lee. There we go. Leeds 6-2 against Solway. Solway, of course, another team that's not been back in their rink yet. The work due to finish at the end of October. I want to say it's the 24th or 25th is going to be Solway's first game back in their barn, and they'll be able to get home again. But again, another 0 points for them on this one. Hull, well, they brought Romford back down to earth with a bump, and they needed a victory, but they got one. 6-1, the Seahawks getting that victory at home, which is what they needed after a tight loss the night before. Telford got back to winning ways, and they beat Peterborough. It does seem like the National Division is going to throw up a lot of bits and pieces, just like it feels like the Elite League is. I know a lot of people have said they feel like this season could be the lowest league points total to win the division in the Elite League. I do wonder whether the National might end up the same way. Either way, Telford, having had a bad night in Romford, get themselves back on the horse the following day. I'm going to press this button and double check. It has moved on. It has moved on to the league table. So this is the league table in the National at the moment. As you can see, with just the 1 point drop, the Wildcats 15 from 16 and top of the table. Only the second lowest goals conceded, because make your own jokes. Basically, have only played 3 games so far. But it's the Cats 3 points clear of the Knights at the top of the table, followed by Telford, who do have a game in hand that would take them up to second. Peterborough, having had a pretty decent start to the season, you can see there 3 wins in overtime or the shootout so far for Ashley Tate's side. Sheffield, MK, Hull and Romford make up the top 8 at the moment. Basingstoke have 4 games in hand on the teams above and below them, already above Solway, which doesn't help. The cup table looks a little like this, he says, just double checking. And the Bison are in 8th. If it was the cup table, I want the playoffs to look like this. By the way, Swindon as well, top of the cup table, followed by Milton Keynes, Telford and Peterborough. If the semi-finals happen today, Peterborough and Swindon do have games in hand on the teams above them. Leeds in the cup table down in 7th at the moment. That's of course the issue of having lost 2 games very early, but you do feel the Knights could make a bit of a run up the table at the moment. Of course, Basingstoke, though, have now played 3 games. All of their games so far have been cup games, so they do need to get some results if they wish to push on further. Although it does feel a little bit like they will be wanting to look towards the playoffs more than the cup and the league title. And so the fixtures, and that means Max Van Mullen is back with his fantastic graphics, and I don't know why he's managed to put Peterborough fans behind Leeds on that one, but we'll figure that one out later. But it is Yorkshire Hockey, Friday night lights this Friday night at Ice Sheffield. The Dogs and the Knights will go back to war to see who gets the Yorkshire Tea Cup somewhere down the line. And then into Saturday, and there it is. Max has put it top because it is the most important game in British hockey on Saturday. The return home for the first time since April of 2023 of the Basingstoke Bison, and they take on the Solway Sharks. Martin Grubb's side getting the honour of being the first team into the new look Basingstoke. We've seen the photos, and from my understanding, the Bison are not training on the ice this week, so we will see how they do against the side in Solway, desperate for points. Elsewhere on Saturday, Bristol versus Hull, MK versus Telford. That one could be very tasty. Sheffield versus Romford, and what another one that could be a low key under the radar high quality game of Swindon versus Peterborough. And then on Sunday, well, the Bison get a home game, and then they are going away, as they head up to the World's Men's Versatile Arena to take on the Hull Seahawks. MK will travel to Leeds, having lost in the Thunderdome. Can Tim Wallace's side get some revenge at the Castle? Peterborough hosts Solway. Romford take on Bristol in what could be a big four-pointer when it comes towards the playoffs, and a really good, interesting one. 2 of the early high flyers, Telford, take on the Swindon Wildcats. We hit buttons. And we just come back for a moment, just to pause, have a breath. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings in the chat. Bison vastly unlucky. Obviously, whether they deserve to win against Swindon seems to be the question of it. But I think maybe if you hold out against a team like that for over 50 minutes, you kind of maybe deserve to get to OT. But hockey's not a kind sport when it comes down to these things. So either way, Swindon, I said they look like they were title contenders, and they are off to a flyer. The question, of course, is when the slump comes, and the slump might come at some point, how will they respond? It's more how bad the performances were last weekend, Anthony. Don't want to get too far behind Swindon and Leeds, even at this early stage. I admit Lightning fans have very high standards. I would agree on the high standards bit. I do wonder sometimes if MK fans expect a little bit too much, and they expect MK to just win by divine right sometimes, because this is proven to be a very good league, I think. Kieran has said there, it's what makes the National League so good, no guarantees. And I think it's certainly proving to be more of it this year so far. It was a massive wake-up call for everyone in MK. Yeah, and it should be. It really should be, I think, as well. I think the league has moved on in such a way that has moved on in such a way that I think it's really impressive that MK fans are worrying, because MK fans have been in this position like, we're going for the league title straight away, and actually it might be a different story for MK this year. Guys in the Slapshot Syndicate, which I assume will be Rossi, because it's usually Rossi. Huge opportunity for us to turn the corner this weekend. It is, and I hope we stuff you. I hope we come up to Hull and bring back the spirit of Gail Lubwele and give you an absolute kicking. I make no apologies. My team are back, and I hope we stuff the lot of you every week. I think as well, I've talked a lot about the fact that this is a free hit season for the Bison, but it does kind of go beyond the bit that. It'd be really interesting to see now, having the rink back, being able to train a bit more regularly in the place they're going to play. And it's a bit like this. It's a bit like Swindon's season where the link flooded, right? There's a difference between the Swindon that started that year and was bouncing around and training in Bristol and Cardiff and all those kind of places, and then the team after the point where they came back and they were able to get back to their sort of routine and do things regularly. What is the Bison now? Look decent. We can't lie. Like yes, they lost to Swindon. And yes, they've lost 2 of 3, to start things off. You know, losing in Telford. I mean, yeah. I mean, two of your first 3 games to play Telford and Swindon away. You know, at home. It's not at home. It's an away game. But to play 2 of those in your first 3 is pretty tough. And you know what? They didn't embarrass themselves, and I think that was kind of the wonder, was how with the Bison turn up and get stuffed early doors. You know what? They look like they can hang, and I think that's the biggest thing for the league, is a Bison who turned up and could play. That's so mean, tough. Back in your shed, get back into your shed. I think people are sleeping on Bison. So Max is flying. There's a solid brick core, and the imports look nice. Playoffs look likely, and I think from my speaking to people within the Bison themselves, that's what they're aiming for. Get the playoffs, and then kind of see what you get from there. And I think as well, you think of the performances Max Wright has chucked in 3 games into the season, when he's not training, being able to train regularly, and isn't getting ice on the place that he's playing, and they've not played a home game. What are this Bison side going to look like on the 15th of November, on the 15th of December, on the 15th of January? What are they going to look like then? There's the big question. And yeah, it's probably going to cost the Bison the league title. It's definitely going to cost them the cup by the look of it. But if this Bison side gets good and gets running, the playoffs could see them in trouble. And from my understanding, that's what Bases are craving for, is to get on the run and hopefully not play like Slava Kulikov style Peterborough, because I would cry. But to be in that position where they can kind of really, really run the table towards the end is what I think they're looking for, and it looks like it's going to be brilliant. 97% save against Swindon is a joke, by the way. Yes, that's because Max Wright is really good at this level. I'm jealous of the Bison's D. Steady on. Yeah, I think there's something to be said. Shanker looks like he's come across and been a really, really solid addition. But I think as well, it's confidence in the ability. Some of those younger guys, of course, you know, like Johnson needs to, you know, learn a few bits and pieces, but he's got some good guys around him. Brendan Baird has been kind of the biggest surprise, I think, for a lot of people, of course, having played last year in Division 1. How would he deal with the speed stepping back up? And it looks like he's not lost a step, in the hockey IQ is very much there. But this is what Joe was like. Joe Baird was never the fastest player, but had the nous and had the savvy. And Brendan Baird has always had that nous and had that savvy. And of course, our friend Ty Cathcart back, causing mayhem wherever he goes. Keep those bits and pieces coming in the chat, because we, of course, do need to look at some of the other bits that are going on. We will head north of the border to the Scottish National League. There we go. Firstly, Connor from SNL Ice Hockey Updates. He's not been well this week. He's caught a bit of the norovirus, and he's not been very, very well. Firstly, Connor, hope you get better soon. Big thanks for that. But it turns out somebody at Scottish Ice Hockey listened to us, and they did a recap piece with scores and everything. Saturday then in the SNL, Kilmarnock scored goals. In fact, they scored 3 goals and still lost by 6. And you'll see the league table in a bit as to the absolute madness of that one. But a big win for Paisley, coming off their defeat against Whitley last weekend. But Whitley's run comes to an end. They lose by 3 goals to 1. The Edinburgh Capitals stop the high power, fast paced start from the new boys in the SNL. Caps win by 3 goals to 1 at Murrayfield on Saturday. And whilst it was bad for one of the new teams in the SNL, the other new team in the SNL is finally on the board. A first ever win for the Solway Sharks SNL side. Bailey Thompson with the game-winning goal. They win by 3 goals to 2 against the North Ayrshire Wild. And in a battle of playoff winners versus league champions, a 3 goals to 2 win up in the northeast for the Aberdeen Lynx. Sunday then, a bit of a bump back down to earth for the Kilmarnock Thunder. Shut out on the road in Fife. They lose by 18 goals to 0 against the Kirkcaldy Kestrels to compound their already frustrating and disappointing season so far. Whitley, though, did get back to winning ways, losing in Edinburgh, but winning back home at Hillheads. 5 goals to 2. Tony Hand's side win against the Paisley Pirates. So that then brings us to the SNL table, which I just need to... There we go, it's come up for me there. So Whitley lose their first game and drop points for the first time as members of the Scottish National League, which has them on 12 points from 7 games. Aberdeen 6 from 10, so close game, yeah, just about. So 2 points. front. The Kestrels have played 9 games and have 10 points. So Warriors and Aberdeen with games in hand, and also games in hand for the Caps, the only undefeated team left in the SNL as a result. 5 from 5 for the team from Murrayfield. Paisley are in fifth. Dundee Rockets have only played 4 games and are in 6th, followed by Solway, who moved themselves up to 7th. North Ayr are on 8 points, and as you can see, they're at the bottom for Kilmarnock. 7 played, 7 losses, 9 goals scored, 94 goals conceded in 7 games, and a goal difference of minus 85. I can't do maths that quickly in my head, so I'm going to get out the calculator. 94 divided by 7 equals an average of 13.42 goals against a game for Kilmarnock. A bad year, I think, on that one is all we can say to that one. What we can do, though, is we can also click this button because they've also bothered to put the proper fixtures on there. Here's Saturday in the SNL. Kilmarnock will look for anything at all against the Dundee Rockets. Just score a goal, Kilmarnock. That's all we ask of you. The 2 new sides of the SNL will meet at Dumfries, so it tells us. The Solway SNL Sharks take on the Whitley Warriors. Edinburgh versus Aberdeen at Murrayfield, and North Ayr welcome Paisley. And then 2 games on Sunday. I'm hoping I've got these the right way around, or I'm going to feel very, very silly. Solway versus Paisley, and Dundee versus Kirkcaldy. What we then need to do is I click this button and we skip across because we'll have a look, and for some reason I'm on NHL 2 North. Why am I on 2 North? You know what? We'll do Div 2 first. We always do Div 1 and then do Div 2. Let's do it the other way around, as I've clicked the button and got it the wrong way around. Tendy's got it rough. Tendy has got it rough. That Tendy has got rubber poisoning. That Tendy's going to have to change his name to Pirelli. He's seeing that much. They're seeing that much rubber in Kirkcaldy. Actually, if I look very quickly, just while we got that up there on the screen, if I go to Scottish ice hockey, can I get the stats up actually for, if I go to the Thunder, Kilmarnock Thunder, there we are. If we click on the Scottish ice hockey website, so what have we got? So they've iced 3 netminders so far, have Kilmarnock. Matthew Reid has played in 7 games, has conceded 33 goals and 168 shots, and has a save percentage of 80 and a goals against average of 13.46. Aaron Forsyth has played in 2 games, has conceded 22 goals on 78 shots, and has a goals against of 23.1 and a save percentage of 71.8. And Thomas Mangan has played in 5 games, has conceded 39 goals and 248 shots, has a save percentage of 84.3 and a goals against average of 10.85. Rough, to say the least. Either way, as I pressed the wrong button, we've ended up in North 2. We'll start in North 2. And 2 of the bigger heavy hitters now with a very similar record as a result at Ice Sheffield. Sutton beating Billingham by 6 goals to 2. Sutton, of course, having that poor start in the opening weekend and have rebounded something absolutely fierce, having lost and then won 5 out of 6 as a result, condemning the Buccaneers to their first regulation loss of the season. Just as we sort of skip down here, you can see the massive difference in the shot count. The Sting outshooting the Buccaneers by 55 to 23. 4-goal night for Morgan Glasby for the Sting, one of their perennial top scorers. Matt Jeffcock and Joe Colton with the other goals there for the Sting. The goals for the Buccaneers coming from Sam Dowd and Dimitri Grittans. Another big scoring game at the world's most versatile arena, the Kingston Sharks. 3 from 3 for the Sharks now in league play. They beat the Altrincham Aces by 7 goals to 2. The Aces, of course, just that lone win on the season so far. Much more even game on the shot count, but not even at all on the scoreboard. Romeo Nixon and Billy King on the board for the Aces. 2 goals in this one from Kieran Robinson, and then goals from Mackenzie Barker, Declan Kime, Tom Mardle, and Joe Anson for the Sharks. Wasn't to be, though, for Kingston the following night, dropping their first game of the season against, well, one of the other Sheffield NHL team that's doing quite well. The Titans have had a really good start to the year, all things considered. and they improved things to a 6-2 record with this 5-4 victory. They nearly chucked it away. Kingston did come roaring back from 5-2 down to make it 5-4. Unfortunately, that last goal coming short-handed with only 2 seconds to play. Too little, too late for Kingston in this one. But a valiant performance from the Sharks, who have perennially been one of those lower-end sides in Division 2 since they joined it, but certainly making more of an impression this time out. Harry Roebuck with 2 goals for the hosts. Tom Humphreys, Harry Illingworth and Sam Parkin with the other goals for the Titans. Goals for the Sharks coming from 2 from Mackenzie Barker, Ellis Martin and Kieran Robinson also on the board. And well, a bad weekend for Altrincham, but Billingham do get themselves back on the horse. They move up to 5-1 as a result of giving the Aces a 7-1 kicking. 7-0 after 27 minutes in this one before the Buccaneers loosen the reins a little bit, and Sam Daintiff getting the lone goal for the Aces in this one. As you can see, 52-41 on the shot count, a pretty heavy one all things considered. Goals for the Bucks in this one, 2 from Tom Fraser, 2 from Sam Dowd, and goals from Lewis Hall, Tom Wakefield and James McCabe. And then they finally did it. Our friends at the Bradford Bulldogs are on the board for 25-26 after that ridiculous game the other weekend against Sutton, where they got a point and lost in the shootout, having been 9-all after 60 minutes. But the Bulldogs do the business, 3-1 and 4-1 up, but eventually got themselves over the line. The Dragons too pulled it back to 4-all before goals either side of that second period break from Kieran Furlong and Josh Stockton got the Bulldogs the points in this one. A hat-trick for Stockton on the night, and as we said, goals from Kieran Furlong, Casper Andrew Kianich and Aaron Jordan. Goals for the Dragons too, coming 2 from James Shaw, 1 from James Parsons and 1 from Charlie Spridgen. Not many games next weekend in North 2, just the 2 on the Saturday. Billingham and Coventry will meet at the Forum in Billingham. Altrincham will look to get back to winning ways against Nottingham Lions 2, that's League and Cup. And just the one game on Sunday, the Sheffield Titans and the Bradford Bulldogs will do Yorkshire-style battle at 4:50 at Ice Sheffield. I was phoning sick. Oh, thank you, Jamie. Matt Spencer putting Nottingham 3-0 up against 5. I was at Ice Sheffield Saturday watching the WNHL Under-16s. My son snuck out the pad and snuck in the other game and watched the Sting and Bucks. Kids get away with everything. We won't tell if you don't tell. Into South 2 then, and well, the Peterborough Phantoms keep up their perfect start to the season. 4-0 now for Nathan Pollard's side. An 8-2 victory at the Riverside against the Chelmsford Warriors. 7-0 up by 54-46, and then Chelmsford decided to wake up. 2 goals from Josh Fall inside the last couple of minutes for AJ Herring made a point there. Alongside Herring, who got a hat-trick on the night. Goals for Dan Martin, Jack Sansby, Taylor Romeo, and 2 goals for Connor Pollard. Like I say, not a great night at the office there for the Warriors, but the Phantoms at this level are a different class. You can see why they wanted to move up to Division 1. Also 4-0 on the season are the Guildford Phoenix, and Haringey, well, they dropped to 2-3 after 5 games in what has not been the greatest of starts for Lee Mercer's side. Again, they will have one of their perennial rivals over the last couple of years in South 2, but the Phoenix get this one comfortably 4-0 up by the half-hour mark, thanks to goals from Sol Stoodley with 2, Teo Sire and Josh Sherrington. Stuart Appleby then getting 1 back for the Huskies before Sire's second of the night was cancelled out by Ollie Cooper, but Josh Abbott and Ollie Dennis finishing off the rout. The Phoenix canter to a victory in this one, despite being outshot 49-39. And then, well, into the Eddie Joseph Memorial Cup, and the Lee Valley Lions will have wanted to do right by their old legend, but Peterborough Phantoms are absolutely merciless. They want absolutely all the trophies this year to make a point, with Telford having joined Division 1. They outshoot their host by 50-23 and just give absolutely everybody a bit of a kicking. Although something quite nice from this game sheet, because the first person scored 1 goal, the second person scored 2 goals, and the third person scored 3, which is nice. Dan Martin with 1, Nathan Pollard with 2, a hat-trick for James White, and then goals as well for AJ Herring, Brad Wright, Connor Mellett and Taylor Romeo. Lee Valley's 2 goals coming from the stick of Lee Hounslow in this one, as the Phantoms get 2 points in the cup table. Elsewhere in the Eddie Joseph Memorial Cup, never count out the Invicta Mustangs, the old BOTW adage. and certainly all things considered, a pretty sizable victory for them as they look to get this extra cup competition. Invicta 3-0 to the good, nearly chucked it away. Sam Oliver, Kevin Lake, and James Laming making it 3-0. Kieran Wilson getting Oxford back into the tie before Dax Hedges made it 3-2 and made things nervous. Kieran Snow made it 4-2. But then Joe Edwards did make it a little bit of squeaky bum time coming towards the end of the game. But the Mustangs will skate out with the victory in that one. I've just seen in the chat Mr. Andrew McDougall. Good morning, good sir. Joining us from Australia in the chat. I can't imagine what time it is over there at the moment because it's 9 o'clock here. What is it like, mate? Stick it in the chat, Andrew. What is it, like 6 a.m. over your way at the moment? It's definitely very early, all things considered. Earlier than I'd ever want to be awake. Elsewhere, on the board, at last, the MK Thunder dropped down into South 2 from South 1 this past summer, looking to be able to do to be more competitive. It took them a little bit of time, and of course they did cause a few scares. But against the Slough Spitfires, who got their debut win in the division last week, but the MK Thunder are on the board in South 2 with a 5-3 victory. It was looking a bit dicey for a bit. Harvey Harman and Christian Nicholson making it 2-0 to Slough inside the first 12 minutes. Ryan Wanfor, Marks Canis and Lewis Conroy turned things around. Scott Ander tied things back up, his second of the season for the Spitfires late on. But then 2 late goals and rounding out that hat-trick from Canis, meaning that the Thunder and Will Fry are on the board for 25-26. Of course, the other game that was meant to be was Solent Juniors versus Bristol. That, of course, was postponed. We look to the upcoming weekend then. Haringey take on Lee Valley, the battle of North East London at Ali Pally on Saturday afternoon. Eddie Joseph Memorial Cup action at the Oxpens. The Oxford Rising Stars take on the Chelmsford Warriors. League and Cup action then. And the Junior Devils, who haven't got ice to train on at the moment, it's going to be a pretty tough one to get a result away in Peterborough against Phantoms 2. Sunday at the Spectrum, Guildford Phoenix taking on the Slough Spitfires, who had a really hardcore start to their life in South 2 of Slough, but not shying away from the challenge by any stretch of the imagination. That's League and Cup. The Invicta Mustangs take on Haringey in Kent on Sunday evening, and then 7:30 p.m. on a Sunday night. That's not a fun one. Luckily, it's something as much of akin to a local derby as they'll get in South 2. Bristol, Oxford at the Pound. Which means that's Div 2 done. Let's have a quick look. 7 a.m. in the morning. I was an hour off. I was not a bad guess without looking at anything. In which case, Division 2 is done. Let's have a look at North 1 and something of a big result. One that won't surprise people in Telford, but did surprise people a little bit there. I don't know whether you had the chance to check out the simulcast with no pucking clue. Really interesting little experiment that they did there, because Telford stream their games for free on YouTube but don't offer commentary. So no pucking clue alongside Graham Hamilton from 4000 and Counting joined together to put together a little sort of a little simulcast thing and have a bit of a chat as well about hockey. Really interesting experiment. Check out the next time they do it. No Pucking Clue is the YouTube channel. But the league champs lose their first game of the season. They and Telford are now at the same record of 4-1 after this game. So the Tigers win by 5-4. That's despite Michael Elder putting the Stars ahead inside the first minute. Other goals for the Stars in this one coming from Joe Dowdle, Callum Wilkinson and Ian Brown, because it's always Ian Brown. And a hat-trick because, of course, it was Vladimir Luka scoring a hat-trick to help on this one, including goals as well from Taylor Stanton and Ollie Hunt. A pretty solid night all round there for the Tigers, who a lot of people wondered what they'd be able to offer, but they've turned up and they've really made an impression early on. They also outshoot the Stars by 48-39. Some was a little surprised Mark Turnbull got this game over Jacob Hammond, but they've got 2 decent netminers. You have to give them game time at some point. Why not in big away games like this? The Scimitars, well, their misery continues. They dropped to 0-9 to start the season as they lose away. At Hull. The thing for the Scimitars is there's definitely some quality in that top line, and they're certainly putting the effort in. They're just not getting the results, and no matter where they go, you have to think that eventually when they burst the seal and get their first win of the season, it will be a pretty big celebration at Ice Sheffield for the Shims. Jacob Brammer, Sam Rogers and Joe Matthewman with the goals for the Shims. Goals for the Jets, a hat-trick for Richie Hagar, as well as goals from Ian Kerman, Boris Gibber and Charlie Powell. And then the surprise result, probably the actual surprise result of Saturday evening, Deeside, with their ridiculous high-powered offence, go down 4-3 against Leeds Knights 2. Now, if you know the score from the game the next day, keep quiet for a minute because we're going to have some fun with the people who don't know what's coming. Leeds, but yes, a great win for Davy Lawrence and the Leeds Knights 2. Owen Dell, Fritz Heinzler, Curtis Balmanis and Helgi Bjarnason with the goals for the Knights too. The goals for Deeside, unsurprisingly coming from Jake Witkowski, his 14th of the season. Charlie Phillips and Jared Dickinson. Dickinson scoring with 16 seconds left to make things nervous, but ultimately Deeside left licking their wounds after this one, even out shooting Leeds by 42-26. A fantastic performance between the pipes from Dan Norton as Phil Pearson and Chase Gledhill split time in net for the Dragons. And then the Dragons said, "You made me bleed my own blood," and did this to Leeds the following night. 14-2 on up in Queen's Ferry. 5 goals for Colin Cromie, 4 goals for Jake Witkowski. That means Cromie has now got 6 goals in 7 games. Witkowski has 18 goals through 7 games. We're into silly territory. All things considered, they limit Leeds to just 15 shots on the night. As you can see there, Cromie a 6.9, 5 plus 1. Witkowski a 6.9, 4 plus 2. Dickinson a 6.9, 1 plus 5. Matt Wainwright, Matt Barlow, Charles Phillips and Damani James now having joined, his ban having finished, and he's moved across from Widnes to North Wales for that one. The goals for the Knights coming from Frankie O'Sullivan and Ollie Wagg. And speaking of Widnes, well, they tried their best against the Solihull Barons, but being 4-0 down inside 16 minutes was never the best of starts for them. 2 from Edgar Landsberg's, a goal from Louis Allen, and his first goal for Jake Riley in Solihull colours. There's one for you for you Dukes. Luke Alston then getting Widnes on the board before Landsberg's rounding out his hat-trick. Andrew Hopkins, Nicholas Otterson, Tristan Grimshaw and Brandon Anderton getting on the board there. Solihull quite comfortably skating to their 5th win of the season. They are yet to lose in regulation. As you can see there, though, a 43 save night for our friend Luca Desadri, who normally would have turned up in the chat by this point, but he hasn't yet. The beauty of hockey is no two nights are never the same. No, they are not, Thomas. An outrageous score. It is an outrageous score turnaround, Doogie. This is the equivalent level of below the IHV Premier. This is like our equivalent of the level below that. So it will be a bit different. But yes, this is the sort of madness that kind of happens here. And then the Lions, bless them, they got their 1 win on the year, but they did not get their second. Hull absolutely mullering the Lions on the small pad at the NIC. Another double-digit scoreline on Sunday, 11-4. The Jets managed to skate out by. You do wonder where the Jets have got such. I've got the ability to put results like this on sides, and as you can see, not the biggest of benches either into the bargain, but you do wonder what they need to do to just push themselves into that next echelon and really challenge the Blackburns, the Billinghams, the Solihull to really get themselves up there. If nothing else, Sasha Bravo is a fantastic name for a goalie. Goals in this one, unsurprisingly for Nottingham, Alex Rushby scored again. He scored twice. Toby Fisher and Alex Cleves with the other ones. For the Jets, 2 goals for Richie Hagar, 2 for Ethan Daintieth, and then goals from Charlie Powell, Scott Morris, Boris Gibber, Alex Kent, Kieran Beach, Cohen Taylor and Regan Taylor on the board for the Jets. Next weekend then in North 1, 2 games on Saturday. Hull will welcome Widnes to the world's most versatile arena. Telford 2 versus Leeds Knights 2. If that game gets anywhere, it gets to 2-2. A black hole will appear in your kitchen. On Sunday, North Wales for Deeside versus Solihull. That could be a really interesting one. Billingham take on Blackburn in the absolute massive barnstorming big game of the weekend across Division 1 and 2. And then on the small pad, a chance for the Lions and a chance for the Scimitars, you'd have to argue, to get their first win of the season. Nottingham versus Sheffield on the small pad at 7:20. And then that leaves us with South 1. Streatham, of course, in League and Cup. They lost in the Challenge Cup to Chelmsford last weekend. Back on the horse in the league, and they beat Invicta by 4-1 on the high road. Just the 1 penalty for Streatham, which is unusual for them, even if it was Ethan Lane getting into a fight with Harrison Lillis. Lane himself also on the scoreboard, along with Jordan Gregory, Vanya Antonov and Luke Brittle. A late goal from Cam Pywell breaking the shutout, but the points stay very, very firmly in South London as Brett Shepherd only faces 16 shots. Brad Windybank faces 58 and makes 54 saves. And well, they didn't do much the week before. If nothing else, there was less headbutts in this game from my understanding. But Slough again put double digits on the Romford Buccaneers, 10-1 after that 15-0 thwacking they gave them the week before. Don't worry though, no goal for Neil Lydiard. The world's not about to end. But a pretty big night, as you can see on the numbers, from Ollie Hemmings Mar, a 6-point night and 4+2. Juha Lindgren with a 6-point night and 1+5. Seb Moore with a 2+4, 6.9 for him as well. There are other goals coming from Juha Lindgren, Connor Redman, Timo Lindgren and Dylan Halika. Migas Canis with the goal for the very, very short benched Romford Buccaneers. As you can see, our boy Maxwell Mullin not subjected to the madness this time. Sonny Phillips makes 37 saves on 47 shots. As Jacob Parsons gets some ice time. Matt Smittle only facing 6 shots, none in the second period, through 31-29 of work. Invicta and Stretton then tried again the next day down in Kent, and well, Stretton made an even bigger result out of it. They shut out the Dynamos on home ice down in Kent. We had 21 shot shutout, which I think was for Danny Milton. I want to say it was for Danny Milton. It was for Danny Milton, as they put 47 goals and 44 shots the other way for Streatham in this one. Ryan Watt, Jared Lane, Sam Waller, Ziggy Beasley, Aidan Doughty, Vanya Antonov and JJ Pitchley. This is the danger of Streatham at this level. It's multi amounts of threat. Although I can't remember the last time I remember seeing Sam Waller score, so fair play on that one. But as you can see, Brad Windybank making 32 saves before Nikolai Duval got his opportunity late in the third. Down in Cardiff Bay, well, Streatham they beat Streatham and then managed to do the business here as well. Chelmsford with a bit of a long journey on a Sunday, all things considered, literally the opposite side of the country, but they win by 6-2 at the Vindico. It was 1-1 inside 5 minutes in this one, as Grant Bartlett and Josh Poole cancelled each other out before Chelmsford pulled away in the end on this one. As I say. Goals for the Cardiff Fire, Joe Kakavale and Josh Poole. Chelmsford goals, 2 from Grant Bartlett, and then goals from Cam Bartlett, Sasha Maltsev, Alan Lack and Tom Saw. So looking at this weekend, then we know one of these games is not going to happen. The announcement has been made tonight. Solent versus Romford is off. In spite of the fact they have got ice down, they have a temporary solution to get the rink open, but it will not be in a state to play hockey this weekend. The Devils versus the Buccaneers is not happening. Do not travel to Gosport on Saturday. Elsewhere on Saturday, though, down in Kent, Invicta versus Cardiff, as Cardiff will have to go and do the long journey this time, and over in Berkshire in the Challenge Cup, Slough versus Chelmsford. That should be a cracker. Chelmsford versus Invicta then is your headline for Sunday, 6:45 p.m. down in the Bay. The battle of the Fire and the Devils. Cardiff take on Solent. Oh, I've pressed the wrong button. That's fine. We'll press that one instead. It was the Brad Windybank show. Good evening, Chris. We do like that. Yes, the most Australian response there. On you, Jake. Well done. Just throwing it out there, but a guy who played 4 years at Boston University might be a bit good in North 1. Witkowski is absolutely ridiculous. He is absolutely nuts. I don't understand. Like, obviously, his life situation has led him to be in the position that he is in right now. If we just skip down, if we go to the bottom of the D-side thing, because just looking at, let's go to here. So if I skip back, if we skip back to look at some of the bits and pieces from D-side, let's zoom in a little bit. The text might go a little bit funny as a result, but let's skip here because we can now see some of the numbers we're talking about. So Cromie in the league has got 6 goals. Wainwright has got 5 assists. Jared Dickinson has ended the night with his 12th assist of the season. So Dickinson has got 4 goals and 12 assists in 7 games. Witkowski, I make there as having 18 goals and 10 assists. So Witkowski has 28 points in 7 games. Like, we're in nuts levels worth of bits and pieces here. That's crackers. all things considered. I am going to put this back because otherwise it's going to scuff me later. But yeah, he is a little bit good. Chris, always good to have you around. I don't know whether you... I assume you're talking about the Saturday because I haven't seen the highlights from Sunday yet. As you say, Dukes, good on you to Mr. Riley, of course, taking an opportunity here on the other side of the pond. Div 1, obviously not the highest level of hockey that Britain has to offer, but it is, for guys, obviously he's played a lot of, Jake Riley's played, he's played IHL, played in the PHL, played a lot of, he was with the Adelaide Jokers in the South Australia Premier League this season just gone. It would have been a big step up to go straight into the national, I think, for a guy like that. I think, it's a good situation he's kind of landed in. Solihull was a club. They're not, I don't want to say they're insular, but I think introverted might be a good way to describe the Barons. They're not the biggest users of kind of sort of social media. It's a it's a good situation to land in if you want to kind of make a mark in that sense. And, there's a lot of guys in that team who are very, very solid. Edgar's Landsbergs, has had a rough couple of years kind of finding his feet again. You got Nicholas Otterson, arguably the big power player in Division 1 North. So, everyone's jealous of Jake Riley's mustache as well, I think, is the obvious thing. Get experience in another country, playing the sport you love. Sounds good to me. Yeah, I'll let everybody else in the chat, you make the jokes about Solihull for our friend Mr. McDougall, and we will move on with our day. Invicta never really looked like scoring most of the weekend, but Windibank gave them a sniff on Saturday, and that's what Brad can do at that level. I know, obviously, John, I know a lot of people put a lot of stock in Nikolai, and he's going to have a really, really bright future, but you do need a guy who can do some of those bits and pieces now. At that level, Brad Windibank is the guy to do it. And you think of some of the injury issues he had when he was at Romford, it's great to see him fit and doing bits and pieces again. What we do need to do is I need to press that button, and we need to have a look at the WNIHL and check out the women's bits and pieces. Just look at that from Chris. I'm editing the highlights from Saturday as you speak. It's basically a Brad Windibank highlight reel. The pad stacker save alone is worth the watch. We love a good double pad stack. Either way, into the women's game, the WNHL results from this past weekend. Just the one game. It was family night at the Slough Ice Arena, and a big win for the Queen Bees. They stopped the momentum of the Whitley Bay Beacons with a 4-1 win on Saturday evening in Slough. Since all the best to the Queen Bees for what I hope was a good night there for them. And the Beacons, well, they got a result the following night, losing to the Bees, but getting a 2-1 win away at the Spectrum against the Guildford Lightning. And the Solihull Vixens, well, they'd lost in Whitley Bay and had their home game cancelled for the last time they tried to play that one, but they did manage to pick up some points on the high road, the champs beating the Streatham Storm by a score of 5-3. That means the league table looks like this. Whitley Bay's first loss of the season, but they still remain top of the table. They have, of course, played 6 games to everybody else below them, having played a maximum of 3. So teams, what you feel, are eventually going to catch them up. It's the Queen Bees have 2 wins and a tie, meaning they're on 5. Solihull are in 3rd, followed by Guildford, Streatham, and still at the bottom, haven't played for a little bit, are the Bristol Huskies. There we go, there it is. It's not responding very clearly to my bits and pieces, is it? There we go. Let's press that again. There we go. And then we've got the results from the other leagues across the WNIHL. Just the one game in North 1, tie in the derby between Nottingham and Sheffield. Not so much of a tie in 1 South. The Swindon Top Cats shut out the Streatham Storm. A bad weekend for the Storm on home ice as they lose in the Elite and lose in Division 1 as well. In North 2, in the Valerie Conference, Whitley Bay sneak their way past Leeds by a score of 5-4. And in the Elizabeth Conference, lots of goals, wins for the Caledonia Steel Queen Bees against the Manchester Storm by a score of 6-2, and Nottingham Vipers 2 shut out the Leeds Thorns by a score of 5-0. In the South, in the Valerie Conference, a goal fest at the Ox Pens, but one that the Slough Sirens sneak out of with the points. They beat the Midnight Stars by a score of 6-5. In the Elizabeth Conference in South 2, not to be for the Lee Valley Vampires, spooked by the sunlight brought by the MK Falcons 2, 6-3 MK winning in that one. And then, on a bit of a one-sided one over in Cambridge, Kodiaks 2, Well, they get to. Unfortunately, Invicta turned up and gave them an absolute cricket score. 14-2, the side from Kent taking the points in that South 2 encounter. In the Under-16s League in the North, wins for the Caledonia Iron Maidens. They beat Manchester by 7-3. And then it was a tie in the seniors. It was not a tie in the juniors. Sheffield beat Nottingham by 12 goals to 0. In the Southern Division of the Under-16s, the Ice Bees doubling up alongside the seniors. They beat the Chelmsford Rattlesnakes by 4 goals to 1. And London and Harrogate managed to sneak out of the Thunderdome with the points. They beat the MK Storm by a score of 4-3. What that means then, ladies and gentlemen, is we have done it. We have done the whole kit and caboodle. Every senior game across all the divisions of British ice hockey, all 11 of them. We have talked about the lot, and there we are. We've done that, which means once we talked about everything, what do we do here on the What's Current stream? We open the door. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything you guys want to chat about hockey related for the last little while, we'll have a chat and bash through it before we head off into the night and prepare ourselves for what's to come. Doogie, what's the growth of women's hockey over there like? It's getting there. We actually had a really good chat. I'd recommend skipping back through the YouTube channel, going back a couple of weeks, not last week, the week before. We had a really good chat about price pointing women's hockey, because lots of teams here don't charge for entry, but some do, and talking about how women's hockey can kind of grow and become more of a sport that people kind of pay for. You have to skip to like the last sort of 20 minutes, half an hour of the stream for that chat, but if you're interested, that'd be the sort of thing. 2 people give me the update for the same game in different ways. So we know the Clan leading the Sheffield Steelers by 2 goals to 1, and of course, who would score against them but the former Steeler, Brett Newman, on the board for the Glasgow Clan against the Steelers. And you have to know that's going to have landed very, very well for the people who don't like Mitch Hurd at the moment. He says, just quickly grabbing the phone to just sort of double check bits and pieces. Also wondering, I was just like, why have I got an email from the IIHF? And it's actually just the branding bits and pieces. CHL playoff drama. Not of your Belfast, unfortunately, on that front. But yes, the other thing as well, Doogie, because you're obviously going to be working on bits and pieces, and I assume you'll be commentating on the AWIHL when it starts. Doogie, put your links and bits and pieces in the chat so people can find out. Andrew McDougall is in the chat, does a great amount of sort of independent media bits and pieces like that about Australian ice hockey. We love Doogie. I wish he didn't do his live show at 9 o'clock in the morning of an Australian morning, because it's like 1 o'clock in the morning here. But check out Doogie's bits and pieces that he's done as well, because he does some really entertaining stuff about Australian hockey. And you know we love our Australian ice hockey here at BOTW. I'm just trying to think of the other bits and pieces. Well, of course, the NHL season has kicked off, is rocking and rolling. A shout out for Charlie Lindgren, so that'll keep me and Jamie happy. I saw my first WNHL under-16 game, the newly formed... Oh, I was going to say, were you at the Sheffield-Nottingham game? Dave, you're not taking it away. Were you retracting it to not hurt anybody's feelings? I mean, it's okay if that's how you feel. It's fine. Just had something flash up on my phone, but it's actually just Google Photos reminding me of something a year ago. So it will be photos of my son. But yeah, so unfortunately, Gosport, so they've got ice down, but not to a position where they look like they're going to be able to play, where they're going to play hockey on it. What do we need? It was 3-0 Panthers. Is it still 3-0 Panthers? It is still 3-0 Nottingham away in Fife at the moment. Let's just quickly pull up the Solent Devils press release. They did do something about their game. Here it is. It's a regret that we're announcing the postponing of this weekend's home game against the Romford Buccaneers. Unfortunately, due to the continued maintenance of Planet Ice, we are not able to go ahead with our game on Saturday. We hope to be able to return soon to break in the brand new ice pad. We apologise for the inconveniences this has caused. The Solent Devils will return to play this Sunday as we make the journey to Cardiff to face the Fire. More details regarding this away game will be posted soon, which is obviously short, sharp, to the point, kind of what they needed, but it is what it is. on that front. Should also say though, because I know in Solent, no Mason Wild and his wife Danny had a little boy called he's just flicking through. Jake is the name of their little one, and Ryan Sutton and his partner and his wife Lucy have had their second child. Little Freddie has joined the party. All things considered there, so congrats to those guys if nothing else. The one thing I do like actually about Solent, I know people will criticise Gosport as a rink and will don't always like the way that aren't big fans of the Devils in some ways or other. The one thing the Devils are really good at is acknowledging things like their previous players and so on. Hit send before finish. New Nottingham Lions lost 12-2 against the Sheffield Shadows, but they got to play in front of the Panthers fans during a period break on Sunday, which was nice. That's awesome. Under 16s. Kieran, in the subject of NHL, my son is up for adoption. It's the Caps. Has to be the Caps. You are not gonna hear anything from me on that front. How are the Solway Sharks travelling so far? It could be better for them. I think is probably the best thing to say on that front. They are. They've played in the league. They've played 7 games. They've and they're 1-6. So they are bottom of the table, below a team that's only played 3 games at the moment. They've scored 19 and conceded 40 goals in 7 games. Is where we are on that front when it comes to Solway. They're not bottom of the cup table though, because they have 2 points and Bristol have 1, because the cup and the playoffs the cup and the league are separated out here because it's Britain and we have to have a cup for things. It's not ideal for Solent at all, Kieran. I think the biggest issue as well, you've got Planet Ice trying to finish Basingstoke at the same time, and then this has gone wrong in Gosport. My understanding is that there's an issue with the plant, and they did. Can I see if I can find the Planet Ice put something out about Gosport? So let's see if we can quickly find it. Finding out Planet Ice. If I do that, should hopefully. Yeah, so the Planet Ice announcement about Gosport. We'd like to thank all our customers for the patience and understanding during the temporary closure of Planet Ice Gosport. It's now been sort of 2 and a bit weeks it's been shut. Due to unforeseen circumstances, the venue has been closed over the past week. However, we're pleased to share that a temporary plant solution has already been installed and is operating effectively. We've also taken the opportunity to relay brand new ice, something we're confident our skating community will enjoy and appreciate. Work is continuing on the pad and we're aiming to reopen over the weekend. The temporary solution is expected to remain in place for approximately 4 to 6 weeks while we await delivery of new plant components. In the meantime, we're committed to ensuring your skating experience remains smooth and uninterrupted. So the issue there, 4 to 6 weeks, if of a temporary solution, will the Devils be able to get a game in at home before that point? What else do you... I've missed something there. What else do you drink from? No worries, Doogie. Thanks for hopping in. Like I said, mate, stick your links in the chat if you've got the opportunity to do so. If not, like I say, folks, go check out Andrew McDougall and the stuff he does on Australian hockey. Really entertaining. He should be commentating on the Australian Women's League, which I think kicks off next month. So go and enjoy that. Be for free on YouTube. Maybe if they actually reinvested their earnings into the rinks, they wouldn't have so many issues in PI rinks. Good show yet again. I'm heading out. Got a taxi and a flight to get to. Take care, Mike. I assume you're off to Sweden. Safe travels. God bless. I'm sure he'll be looking after us. Speaking of flights, I have booked myself. I did tweet about it the other night, but my hockey excursion this year will take me over the water to Belfast for the first time. I've obviously watched the Belfast Giants a fair bit over my time watching British hockey, but I've never made it to a game in Belfast. And there is a weekend where the Flames are playing up in Scotland, and I took the opportunity to I got the pass for that weekend, such as it is. But basically, looked at sort of my free weekends, and my wife said that's a really, really good one. If you want to go do bits and pieces there, go do it then. So I have the week off work from the Monday to the Friday. Early Friday afternoon, I fly to Belfast. I will be at the Belfast Giants versus Coventry Blaze game on Friday the 30th of January 2026, and then on Saturday I'm going to tick another country off of places I've watched football, because one of the things I want to do is I want to watch a game of football in all of the constituent parts of the UK's leagues and islands. I want to include the Republic in it as well. So I'm going to do. So I've obviously done England because I grew up in England. I've done Scotland and watched a game in the Scottish League. I have watched football in Wales, but it was Cardiff City, so I'm not counting it on this. I want to get to a Welsh League game, which, for those of you who remember my excursion last season, I nearly got to do until Buckley Town ruined it by breaking their floodlights. I've watched a game in the League of Ireland because I've watched Shamrock Rovers. So when I'm in Belfast, I will have a free Saturday. I will find the game that is on. I might pop down and watch Linfield. They play at Windsor Park, so that could be good. So should be so like I say, I will take recommendations as to where to go for the football on that one. I'll be looking at all the relevant games, but I will try and stay in Belfast. I have a flight at sort of 10 o'clock on sort of 10 o'clock on the Sunday morning, so I will not be having a heavy night on the Saturday. That's what the Friday is for, and the hockey and bits and pieces. But it should be good fun. Really looking forward to it. It'll be a nice sort of break up of bits and pieces for me. Getting to go watch hockey somewhere different, of course. You know, I've been where you think about since the Bison, stepped off the ice. I've been to Solway. I've been to all these, different rinks around sort of the south and the middle. Went to Bristol and to Deeside on my last hockey excursion. So popping back on watched hockey in Germany, of course, as well in March of last year when I saw Fast-Berlin versus Dresden. So getting to finally head across to Belfast. And see that, because I've been through Belfast, but I've never been to Belfast. The only time I've been to Ulster properly was for the funeral of a relative. So I flew to Belfast, but then I was immediately down the road to Lisbon to get stuffed full of food, such as it was. So getting the opportunity to go over to Belfast. Hopefully going to meet up with the guys from Door 14 Hockey. I don't know whether any of the AVFTB boys will be over, but I'm going to try and hit as many pointers as I can and try and meet as many people as I get the opportunity to do so. So it should be a lot of fun. 9:36, last call, ladies and gentlemen. I don't see any issues in PI rinks, but I am legally blind. This would explain some of your cricket scores, Kieran, because if you can't see the ball, how do you hit it? So yeah, going to be a gospel. I mean, you talk about a great arena to watch hockey. Like, having never been to Belfast, obviously I've heard lots of good things about it. I actually really like going to some of these smaller places. I love Gosport. I love Oxford. I really enjoyed them. Slough, I know a lot of people complain about Slough, but I've had worse rink coffee. Slough's rink coffee was actually not terrible. Gosport, that's why there's a Starbucks next door, is what I will say. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm just looking forward to going somewhere different. If nothing else, our family holiday next summer is we're going to Berlin. And I have been grinding away doing lots of surveys to earn Avios points, and because I'm flying Aer Lingus from Southampton, I can pick up more Avios points, because basically I want to just burn a load of Avios points to just eat, not have to pay for things, not have to use money to pay for things on the plane. I won't be around in the chat next week for the stream, taking the opportunity to watch my family hometown team with my dad. I'll be watching Watford versus West Brom in the Championship. Hey, Jamie, this is why it's on YouTube, mate. So you can come back and catch up with it later. Not a problem at all. Like, it's awesome. I value the contributions of everybody. You've been a regular viewer, popping in, offering your 2 cents and bits and pieces. We don't agree on everything, but disagreement is of not disaster. So it is what it is on that front. But Watford versus West Brom, I have been to Vicarage Road. It was a very long time ago for that one. I actually won tickets. It was when Saracens were playing that. I won tickets to see Saracens versus Cardiff in the rugby at Vicarage Road. Won through a competition on BBC Radio 5 Live. So, and I did see West Brom. My son's first ever competitive Bournemouth game was against West Brom in the Cup. So, there you go. Either way, we will call it there. Bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one source related to all things British hockey. In the Box Sinking will be back after this weekend as the Flames take on the Manchester Storm, and we will see what comes off the back of that. And you've got all, of course, my unique-ish look from the commentary position at the Guildford Spectrum, as well as all of the games that I've been to going back, whether it's the Bison, whether it's on the Banners on the Road series, which will eventually come back when games aren't cancelled because the pads break, and we'll figure it out. If nothing else, there will be one more running with the herd in a couple of weeks' time. Looking forward to that one. You've also got our Hockey Story series, long-form, in-depth pieces of content, written, audio, visual, all kinds of bits and pieces, from the 19th century to the present day, behind the Iron Curtain, into World War II and beyond. You can go and check out all of those bits and pieces over on the website, bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. All of our socials are down below in the description. You can hit the link tree and you'll get the link to our Facebook, to our to X, to Blue Sky, and there's also the link to our virtual busking hat over at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. Never going behind the paywall, but if you want to help keep the lights on and the wheels spinning, chuck us a couple of quid. It's always appreciated. But if you don't have the money, not a problem at all. Share stuff out, like stuff out, tell your friends, because we like having a whale of a time. And of course, we are here on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video, share it out, tell your friends. And if not, like I say, there is no other show in British hockey that is live like we are and goes through every result of every senior division like we do. The What's Current stream, where you get to join in the conversation. We love having you guys join us. We are back next Wednesday night at 8 p.m. This coming Saturday is a day that genuinely part of me knew was coming, and even then I still kind of didn't believe it. This has got to wait for a little bit because I want to take it there. I want to do it myself. But a lot of people are responsible for what's happening tomorrow. Yes, the building people, and yes, Planet Ice, and yes, we said our piece many, many times about the council and Planet Ice and Standard Securities. We talked a lot about the frustrations that we felt. Saturday happens because of a lot of people. It's people like Sally and Jean Cashman poking and prodding and never letting it go. It's Stuart Tempest poking and prodding and never letting it go. It's people on opposite sides of the political argument in Basingstoke Council, like Alex, like Sean, who wouldn't let it go. Because we knew what some don't understand, but it's that our rink is important. That our rink is not just a place you turn up once a week and you watch your favourite sport. It's community. It's an asset to your community because of what it offers you, because you can find a home, you can find friends, you can find family, you can find activity, you can find your future there. Basingstoke is a hockey town. I've said that before, with all respect to Basingstoke Town Football Club, with all respect to the rugby club and the swimming club. Basingstoke is a hockey town. It has waited 923 days for Basingstoke Bison hockey. It's a bit less, of course, for hockey. The juniors and the Buffalo did their part, and we must never forget them in that. But the banner wavers, the team that has represented Basingstoke on a national level for so long, it wandered into the mist. And Saturday, finally, it wanders back out. And maybe we will all breathe again. What a moment it will be. Enjoy it. And remember, there but for the grace of God go us all. Cherish where you go. Cherish your rinks, cherish your friends, and cherish your family. This sport is brilliant. And Saturday is going to be a hell of a day. Be happy. And wherever you are, if you can't be happy, then I pray that you are safe. As my friend Scotty Walsh would say, take care of yourself and somebody else. For bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, this is Anthony Russell saying stay safe. So long till next time. Nearly.